Hello guys, welcome back to my channel Chess Orco. In this video I'm showing you guys the clash of the warriors. This is the game, first round quarterfinal game between Praggnanandhaa Ramesh Babu and Arjun Arigasi, and Pragg was playing with the white pieces. So let's start. Knight f3, d5 the ready with g3, g6 symmetrical. Arjun wants to play a safe game with the black pieces, which is understandable. Bishop g2, bishop g7, d4 transferring into a d4 opening, neo Grunfeld or neo Catalan style positions. So knight f6 short castles, c4 hitting the center, c6 defending, queen f4 a bit mysterious move, but this has been played before, so it's opening preparation, nothing to worry about. Knight f d7, this is also have been played before by top guys, so this is also opening prep. Queen to b3, the idea is to put some pressure on the queen side and also the center d5 pawn. And here Arjun plays the interesting move a5, which is intending to hit the queen with a4, and also after taking on d5 a4 you can't go to queen c4 because knight b6 will hit the queen. If you go queen c4 then knight b6 and will anyway lose the pawn. So Pragg plays queen to d1, retreating the queen, and Arjun chops up the pawn on d5, cd5, knight c3 developing the piece, knight b6, ready to develop on the queen side knights and the bishop as well. So bishop f4, Pragg develops his bishop, knight c6 developing another piece, rook to c1 getting the rook to the open c file, and rook a5, a very interesting move and a very interesting way to activating the rook. This is an interesting rook lift, rook a5, and maybe he wants to go to b5 once the knight moves, or even try to go for some pawn breaks with b5 b4, and if the d pawn ever exchanges he can get his rook to the king side as well. So very interesting rook maneuver. b3 breaking on the queen side, pawn captures b3, pawn captures b3, bishop g4, knight e5 hitting the bishop, bishop to e6 defending the d5 pawn, and rook a5 has also intended to defend the d5 pawn as well, over protecting the pawn. Weak. Queen to d2 developing the queen, connecting rooks, nothing out of the ordinary. Queen 8 seizing control of the open a file with the rook and the queen forming a battery. So e3 solidifying the d4 central d4 pawn, which can be under some pressure once the knight on the knight from e5 moves or capture. Rook to c8 developing another piece, knight d3, bishop f5, and this is a very interesting move. He wants to chop off the knight on the d3 square because his bishop is a problem piece for black. So Pragg plays h3, bishop captures d3, queen captures d3, e6 solidifying the center, rook fd1 developing another piece, bishop f8, the bishop was doing nothing on the diagonal, so improving the bishop, bishop f1 doing the same, knight b4 attacking the queen, queen e2, rook to a3 attacking the b3 pawn, queen b2 defending, knight a2, and trying to get off some pieces from the board because black is a bit cramped. So knight captures a2 is sort of forced, rook captures a2, rook captures c8, knight captures c8 only move, queen c3, and the position is roundabout equal as you can see. Knight to e7, b4 knight f5, rook to c1, bishop d6 offering an exchange of the bishop, which Pragg doesn't take. He plays bishop e5. Bishop d6 was fine, I guess. It's nothing much, but he doesn't want to give up the e4 square for the knight. If bishop d6, then knight captures d6, and the knight comes and sits comfortably on the e4 square. So bishop e5, interesting move. Bishop captures e5, d captures e5, king g7 improving the king overall, improving move. b5, queen to d8, interesting move, getting the queen back to the game because the a file is already not that important for the game. Queen b4, d4, and here Pragg made a mistake sort of, or you can say Arjun Arigasi find a brilliant knight sacrifice, knight captures g3. What a wonderful move. The idea is to open up the diagonal, the g1 a7 diagonal, and yeah, knight captures g3, pawn captures g3 is the only move. d3 is the idea, opening up this diagonal, And now Pragg blunders, huge blunder with bishop g2. The only move was king h1, and still the position was very complicated after something like queen b6, and the position is very complicated. Not queen b6, something like queen g5, and this is a very hard position. Even d2 is interesting, very interesting position this is. There's a lot of moves. Rook f2 is also a very interesting move. The idea is to now get queen g5 and put some pressure on the bishop as well. d2 is incoming. So all in all, this was the idea, but bishop g2 was a huge blunder, and here Arjun Erigasi never looked back. Queen b6 check, king h2, queen f2, rook g1 only move. Here you can't even block. The point is, here you can't play queen c5 because you can simply chop it off. Queen captures c5, rook captures c5, and rook captures g2, king captures g2, and pawn to d2, and the pawn is unstoppable, and it's a completely winning position for black. So here rook g1 and rook to e2 the only move here. So after queen f2, rook g1 was the only defensive move, and rook e2, queen e7, but you d2 and queen f6 check, takes, king captures f6, rook f1 check, but the king is coming. This is such a beautiful combination. King g1, king d4. Arjun Erigasi calculated just a wonderful line. Bishop f3 and king to e3, and you can't take it. Bishop g4, h5, another brilliant move, and bishop captures e2, king captures e2, and it's all over. Check, king d3, rook f1 here, rook f2, king c1, rook captures f7, but pawn push equals to queen, rook f1. And here, after the simple move e5, he resigned. Praggnanandhaa designer Arjun is a brilliant game, because there is nothing more to be done. After you take, king captures, my king is always faster, king f3, and the simple king d3, and you'll lose all your pawns. After this, king captures d3, all the pawns will be gone, and this king pawn endgame is completely hopeless for white. So in this position, Praggnanandhaa resigns, and Arjun wins the first classical game. It's 1-0. So let's see what happens in game 2 of the quarterfinals. Let's see. So it's game 2, and Arjun Erigasi is playing with the white pieces, Pragg with the black pieces. So let's start. e4, c5. Pragg has to win with the black on demand, so he plays the Sicilian, the Alapin Sicilian. c3, knight f6, e5, knight d5, all main line, knight f3, knight c6, d4, cd, d6, bishop c4, knight b6, bishop b5, and bishop to d7, unpinning the knight, knight c3, developing another piece towards the center. Pawn captures e5, pawn captures e5, g6, fianchettoing the bishop, and also putting some pressure on the e5 pawn. Short castles, bishop g7, queen e2, preemptively defending the pawn. Short castles, h3, bishop e6, developing and improving the bishop. Rook to d1, queen c7, bishop f4, again overprotecting the f4 pawn and also defending it. So rook a d8, rook a c1, knight to d5, knight captures d5, bishop captures d5, knight to d4, queen b6, attacking the knight, and knight captures c6, b captures c6, bishop c4, bishop captures c4, queen captures c4. So I think Pragg was so confident in the endgame, he wanted to get into a slightly better endgame and want to press it forever. So queen c4, rook captures d1, rook captures d1, queen captures b2, gets a pawn, e6, a very interesting move. Arjun wants to break up the king side pawn formation with the move e6, because if you take on c6, then you will lose the e5 pawn anyway, and the pawn structure is intact for black. So e6, f captures, sorry, queen f6 first, bishop e3, queen captures e6, queen captures e6, f captures e6. So though the pawn structure is slightly compromised, black is still a pawn up, and black can press this forever, which was Pragg's main idea. So bishop captures a7, rook to a8, rook d7, and again this position is completely equal and should be holdable, slightly better for black, but the way Pragg played this beautiful endgame, you will be mesmerized by his endgame play. I was so happy for him, and this game was outstanding, just wonderful endgame play. Let's see. King f7, a4, bishop to e5, king f1, bishop d6, king e2, e5, advancing in the center. King d3. Arjun gets his king to the queen side, and Pragg gets his king to the center. King e6, rook b7, king d5, f3, c5, and this is just, I'm saying you, this is world class endgame play. I mean, this is Magnus territory. This is actually Magnus Carlsen territory to win this kind of small advantage games. Wonderful, wonderful. a5, rook to f8, a6. Meanwhile, Arjun pushing his outside pass pawn, but that pawn is anyway going nowhere because the bishop is controlling the b8 square. The 8 square is controlled by the rook. So rook to a8, king c3, g5. A very interesting move, limiting the pawn formation for in the king side of Arjun. So I think here already Arjun should have played a bit better, but okay, still is equal. Rook a8, king c3, g5, limiting the pawns, king d3, h5, and king c3 was a mistake here. He had to play something like rook to d7, stopping the e5 e4 break, which actually costs him the game. So here after king c3, e4, pawn captures e4, king captures. The king is coming towards the king side, and it's a race, and black is the favorite here. King to c4. You can even sack the c5 pawn if needed, so which he does. King f4 and king b5, because taking on c5 doesn't lead anywhere. The king is coming to the king side to collect. King b5, h4, rook to d7, king g3, and this is already completely winning for Praggnanandhaa Ramesh Babu. Bishop b6, c4, another perfect move. This is literally the only engine move. Let me turn on the engine. Look, the only winning move. If you take here on g2 after rook a7, it's holdable. It's not completely like drawish or something, but it's still holdable. But c4 is, look, c4 is the only winning move, and Pragg finds it. So c4 is, the idea is very simple, to deflect the king from the defense of the a6 pawn. If you take here, then rook captures a6, and this is already completely winning because black is getting the king side pawn very easily. So after c4, Arjun tries to complicate the position with bishop c7, bishop captures c7, rook captures, king captures g2, but this is all over. Rook c5, rook to g8, defending the g5 pawn, a7, but it's all over. King captures h3, king a6, g4, king b7, the pawn is running g3, rook c8 tries something, but rook captures c8, king captures c8, g2, pawn push equals to queen, pawn push equals to queen, but black is simply 3 pawns up, and this is completely winning. So let's go through the rest of the game. Some checks. He's avoiding the perpetual checks, blocking with the queen. Queen captures e7, but the c pawn is running, and the h pawn is also running. c3, queen e1, and queen f3, another accurate move. Queen c1, king h2, check here, queen check, king b8, queen d6 check, king c8, queen c5 check, king b7, c2, queen e1 check, queen f2, another accurate move. It's just all over. This is just a matter of time and technique. So push, check, king h1 check, queen g2, and there is no good checks, and he promotes the queen, and here Arjun resigns because it's a completely lost position, and Pragg strikes back with the black pieces, wins on demand. It's 1-all, and we'll see the tie breaks today, and I'm super excited. Whoever wins this game goes to the semi-final and gets a ticket to the candidates and potentially qualifying for the world championship match against England. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you liked it, then like, share, and don't forget to subscribe to the Chess Orko channel. Goodbye guys.